Hello and a very warm welcome. This is the news on NTA International. My name is Justin Abemuyi, and here are the top stories. President Buhari directs armed forces to sustain counterinsurgency operations in Lake Chad and Northeast to eliminate terrorists. Nigeria Governors Forum partners police and enforcement of interstate lockdown measures. Plus, coronavirus infections in Nigeria continue to rise. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Now, primary health care workers and community health volunteers are to be trained to facilitate contact tracing and testing for coronavirus in the country. Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehanire, confirmed this at the Presidential Task Force briefing, where he also said emergency medical team of experts have proceeded to Kano to beef up the state's response strategy. The PTF made it known that a third laboratory is being set up in Kano State to boost testing for COVID-19. And this comes as the federal government and the military have supported Kano State with more isolation centers, as well as ventilators and other medical equipment to scale up a response to the pandemic.
We must understand that this is still a war against an unseen and potent enemy. No one should mistake the easing of restrictions for permission to act without care. The security agents have been instructed to respect the rights of citizens while also ensuring strict enforcement.
As community transmission emerges, the Federal Ministry of Health has brought in manpower capacity from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency to strengthen and integrate risk communication with the planned training of primary healthcare workers and also community mobilizers to identify new cases and drive demand for COVID-19 testing.
Our response strategy is an adaptive one. We adapt it to the circumstances in every state, every city where the nature of transmission changes.
Dr. Ehanire raised the need for bed spaces and isolation centers at state levels to match the growing number of confirmed cases of coronavirus. The Presidential Task Force also commiserated with it Dr. Sani Aliu over the death of his father. In the meantime, following the President's broadcast on a phased and gradual easing of the lockdown measures occasioned by COVID-19, officers on grade level 14 and above and those on essential services have been directed to resume work with effect from Monday, 4th May 2020. In the first instance, officers are to open 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and close at 2 p.m. on each day. A statement by the head of Civil Service of the Federation, Folashade Yemi-Eson, said in resuming, the concerned officers are to ensure full compliance with the directives and advice on the COVID-19 pandemic preventive measures, including maintenance of social distancing and regular washing and sanitizing of hands and wearing of face masks. She advised officers to limit the number of visitors they receive to the barest minimum, and such visitors should also comply with safety and health advice and directives. She said the Federal Secretariat complexes have been decontaminated while efforts are ongoing to do same in other public offices. Now, to further support the efforts to check the spread of the virus, permanent secretaries and chief executive officers are to ensure that hand washing and sanitation facilities are placed at entrances and strategic points in their MDAs. They are also to ensure that as much as practicable, entrance to the MDAs is limited to only one. It is equally important that infrared thermometers are provided at the entrance for compulsory temperature checks. President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the nation's armed forces to sustain ongoing counterinsurgency operations on the fringes of Lake Chad and the entire northeast so that the Boko Haram menace can be totally eliminated. The president gave the directive after receiving in audience Governor Mai Mala Buni of Yobe State in the State House. President Muhammadu Buhari specifically warned against complacency in the task of ensuring that the nation's territory is no longer habitable for the terrorists so that sustainable peace and development can be achieved. The president said this is necessary towards ensuring that farming and other socio-economic activities in the area are not disrupted. President Buhari, however, tasked the Yobe State governor to continuously mobilize community support for the military operations, saying intelligence sharing and synergy between law enforcement agencies and the civil populace are critical towards achieving the objectives. The governor formally appreciated the federal government for the decisive and proactive measures being employed in the renewed onslaught against the Boko Haram terrorists. He said significant achievements have been recorded by the military in containing the criminal elements now in disarray after the recent operations by the Chadian military. Governor Buni informed the president that if the tempo is maintained, Boko Haram will soon become history. In the same vein, security operatives and other law enforcement agencies at federal, state and local government levels have been directed to adhere strictly to the presidential directive on free movement of agricultural produce and other essential commodities. Now, this directive is coming as the Inter-Ministerial Task Force on Food Security assess the level of compliance in major highways linking Abuja, Nasarawa, Niger and Kaduna states. Now, details with Musa Babaliu.
These are members of the Inter-Ministerial Task Force constituted to ensure food production and supply during the ongoing COVID-19 lockdown. They were drawn from Ministries of Agriculture, Police Affairs, Interior, Defense and Nigeria Civil Defense Corps to form the task force. They are here in Tafa, boundary between Niger and Kaduna State, to ensure that security operatives enforcing the federal and state restriction of movement are complying with the presidential directives on free movement of essential commodities. AIG Operations Force Headquarters, Austin Obolaho, is leading the operation. He tasked those manning checkpoints to impound any vehicle carrying food items with passengers.
Such livestock should not carry passengers.
Okay, sir.
The owner, the driver, and the conductor. These are the only people that should be able to, they should be allowed to follow such trucks, not passengers. Okay. Please, that should be clear to all of us.
The team also toured Abuja Kogi and Abuja Kefilafia highways, raising concerns on a reported blockage of vehicles carrying essential commodities in some parts of the country.
If we get any complaint, I will discover that it's something we cannot, attend to by mere phone call. I think we can equally move to the site or to the location.
Items allowed to move freely apart from food items are pharmaceutical consumables, water, sanitary products, and materials for the production of sanitizers and face masks. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
The European Union has commenced distribution of palliative to vulnerable households in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Estimated at 40 million naira, the palliatives are in furtherance of its support to Nigeria's COVID-19 response. A total of 2,157 households are expected to benefit from the exercise. Now, Basi Taikban reports that the first phase of the exercise took place at Karamajiji village, a suburb in the FCT.
People living with various forms of disability in the FCT thronged in their numbers into the venue of the distribution with expectation.
Aruna told me that it is very rare the society remembers people living with disability when it comes to things like this. He is full of smiles and full of happiness and has us to say.
Today we are very happy with this European Union.
I'm grateful to them for the gesture.
In fact, I'm very, very happy.
The exercise is done in collaboration with leaders of the benefiting communities to ensure that items get to the targeted group, in addition to women who are heads of the family and widows.
But it's more important than ever now to show solidarity. And that is why we are here today as the European Union, as Team Europe, coming together to support all of those in need.
Public sanitation facilities were installed, while information booklets on COVID-19 to enhance public awareness on the virus were distributed to members of the community. EU had earlier announced a 21 billion naira contribution to Nigeria's COVID-19 response. Basi Taikbang, NTA News.
A number of coronavirus infections in Nigeria continues to surge, just as Guinea-Bissau Prime Minister tests positive to the virus. Now, Joyce Ameto gives us an update on the global pandemic.
As at 11:55 p.m. 29th of April, the total confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria stands at 1,728. 307 patients have been discharged, while 51 have died. Top on the cases chart are Lagos with a total of 931, FCT 174, Kanu 139, Ogun 50, and Gombe 64. Below the ladder, we have Imo, Bayelsa, Kebbi, Nasarawa, and Yobe states, which all have one case each. So far, 35 states of the Federation have recorded coronavirus cases. Meanwhile, numbers by the Africa Center for Disease Control as at 6 p.m. show that the continent has 37,381 COVID-19 infections, 1,598 deaths, and over 12,000 recoveries. Globally, figures collated by Worldometer as at 6 p.m. indicates that the number of confirmed infections has topped 3,256,227, with 230,212 fatalities and over 1 million recoveries. Tajikistan has declared its first 15 coronavirus cases after weeks of claiming to be virus-free, despite sharing borders with China and other countries with infections. Almost 11,000 people have been quarantined over the last 3 months, and over 8,000 have already been discharged. Meanwhile, Yemen has recorded its first 2 deaths linked to coronavirus, raising fears of a devastating outbreak in the war-ravaged country. The United Nations has warned of a probability that COVID-19 is circulating undetected within communities in Yemen. In the meantime, South Korea has recorded its first day with no new locally transmitted case since the middle of February. It recorded 4 new cases, but all were people coming from abroad who were diagnosed and isolated on arrival. And lastly, reports have it that Guinea-Bissau's Prime Minister Nuno Gomez Nabiam has tested positive for coronavirus. The country's Interior Minister and 2 other ministers also have COVID-19. The West African country has so far confirmed 205 coronavirus cases and 1 death. And that's a global update. Many thanks for staying. I am Joyce Umetu.
Now, COVID-19 has advanced from the phase of importation into the country to the phase of community spread, and this has influenced the change in response strategy. Accordingly, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency is set to train over 200,000 members of its workforce on preparedness and response. Olusheye Adeagbo reports on the national training, the trainers workshop here in Abuja.
Drawing from experience gathered in the near eradication of polio and control of Ebola crisis in 2014, the strategy of building capacity of the primary healthcare workers is believed to be a potent weapon going into the next phase of response of the coronavirus pandemic. This informed the National Training the Trainers program via video conferencing with over 200 participants across the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT, with only a few physically present. The strategy is one that has the support of the Minister of Health, Dr. Ozage Ehanore, who expressed belief that the control of community transmission of COVID-19 will be best achieved if primary health centers and the communities they serve are strengthened and the necessary information made available to limit the spread of the deadly disease.
It is commendable that the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency and development partners have come up with a comprehensive PHC guide and training plan to provide the strategic direction required to reduce the effect of community transmission.
Officials say the aim is to scale up core capacity to efficiently respond to COVID-19 in a coordinated manner.
Our traditional leaders were very, very central to our polio eradication efforts. They were very central to Ebola outbreak response efforts. So we're using the same template to try and get to the communities, make sure that everybody is really mobilized, everybody feels part of the solution.
Teaching them how to track and identify cases and make sure that community transmission is controlled.
The success of these efforts will be likely measured by the official numbers of confirmed cases in the days ahead. In Abuja, Olusheye Adiagbo, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International. We'll take a short break now. The news continues shortly.
Make your home the place to be with GoTV's super cool kids channels.
That sounds fun!
From funky friends that'll keep even the little ones busy.
Alright everybody, let's do this!
To learn as you watch educational shows for curious young minds.
You can do some amazing things!
There's plenty for everyone. Tune in to our kids shows and get everything you need to keep the kids entertained and learning the fun way. GoTV, live it, love it.
Well, thank you for staying with us. The Economic Sustainability Committee, led by the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, this Thursday met with the Presidential Economic Advisory Council. The meeting via video conferencing was to rub minds on the action plan being prepared by the Economic Sustainability Committee, aimed at helping the economy bounce back after the disruption by COVID-19. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
We have to wait for the report to make it to the
Laulu Akonde, Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media and Publicity in the Office of the Vice President, says the work of the committee is progressing. He says the meeting with the Presidential Economic Advisory Council is to exchange ideas on some of the options that are going to feature in the committee's report to be submitted to the President.
It was a very useful discussion, and we can just assure Nigerians that the President's vision of turning what is clearly a challenging situation into opportunities for Nigeria, that vision is in progress, and very soon the Vice President will be completing the work, and the report will be sent to the President for approval and action.
Akode says the input of the H1 Presidential Economic Advisory Council, chaired by Professor Doyin Salami, with economic experts as members, is crucial. There were other participants other than members of the Economic Sustainability Committee in the video conferencing, and the Senior Special Assistant says the committee is expanding the scope to receive input from all sectors for the benefit of every Nigerian. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
Let's now move to the National Assembly, where the Chairman Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Senator Ajibola Bashiru, says the federal government's 850 billion naira loan request approved by the Senate is not a fresh loan request. Senator Bashiru, in a statement, explained that the resolution passed was an amendment to the earlier resolution as to the source of the initial 850 billion naira loan that had been approved to be part of what should be used to fund the 2020 budget. He noted that the Senate had actually approved the loan of 850 billion naira, but to be sourced from external sources. However, because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the challenge in the international oil market with the attendant challenges of raising the approved loan externally, the President requested that the approved loan should rather be raised through the domestic capital market, which was what the Senate approved. The Nigeria Governors Forum is developing robust partnership with the Nigerian police and the leadership of National Union of Road Transport Workers in the enforcement of interstate lockdown as a measure to contain the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, this formed part of the communique at the end of the forum's 7th teleconference meeting. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports.
The forum says the recent new cases in the country were traced to movement of infected persons from states with record of COVID-19 to non-infected states of the pandemic, hence the need to strengthen security surveillance along state borders. The forum also engages leadership of the Nigerian Medical Association, Pharmaceutical Association of Nigeria, and the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives on sustained commitment, adequate incentives, and the inclusion of senior health workers in the state emergency operation centers. The governors commended medical and health workers for their resilience and professionalism and for keeping to the Hippocratic oath, and urged them to always reach out to government with quality resolutions that will improve the health system. The forum says it will sustain effective collaboration with NCDC to provide training to health workers, including capacity to use telemedicine to strengthen infectious disease control and the use of PPE to stem the spread of the virus among health workers. The governor receives update from Governor of Edo State and Chairman Liaison Committee with Development Partners Godwin Obaseki in response to the fiscal impact of COVID-19 and commended Aliko Dangote and other private donors for their contribution and support towards containing the spread of COVID-19 in the country. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Now, following the federal government's directive on phased and gradual easing of lockdown in Lagos and Abuja from Monday, 4th May 2020, the Nigeria Immigration Service will commence operations in phases. A statement by the Service Public Relations Officer Sunday James indicates that collection of cleared passports at the service headquarters Abuja and all the passport offices nationwide will commence from Monday, 4th May 2020 to 15th May 2020. Apart from states that are experiencing complete lockdown, only applicants invited by SMS through their mobile phones are expected to turn up on the scheduled dates. The statement adds that there will be gradual enrollment for only enhanced passports at the Immigration Service headquarters Abuja, Ikoyi, Alausa, Kano Main Passport Office and Port Harcourt on 18th May 2020. On 25th May 2020, all passport offices nationwide are to operate a gradual processing and enrollment in strict compliance with social distancing rules, wearing of face masks and the use of hand sanitizers. The federal government has declared a Friday, May 1st, 2020 as public holiday to mark this year's International Workers' Day celebration. The Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, who made the declaration on behalf of the federal government, commended Nigerian workers for their resilience, patience and understanding, particularly in their support of the President Muhammadu Buhari's efforts at stemming the spread of COVID-19 pandemic in the country. The minister, who further thanked Nigerians and the labor force for their sacrifices in the present period of trial, promised that their commitment and patience will complement the efforts being made by government and other stakeholders to ensure the speedy control of the virus. He said that with the cooperation of every citizen as well as strict adherence to the measures being put in place by relevant authorities, the challenges being faced by Nigerians as a result of the disease would soon be put behind. And President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi of Egypt has condoled with President Muhammadu Buhari on the death of his Chief of Staff, Abakari. In a condolence message to the Nigerian leader, President el-Sisi said he received with great sorrow the news of the passing of Mr. Abakari. The Egyptian leader noted that the danger that the world and the African continent face today from the outbreak of COVID-19 underscores the need for concerted national and regional efforts to confront the pandemic. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President, Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says President Buhari also stressed the importance of strengthening cooperation among African countries to contain the repercussions of the virus, in addition to preserving the development and political gains achieved by the continent. In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari commiserates with National Coordinator of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Dr. Sani Aliyu, over the passing of his father, Alhaji Aliyu Daneji. President Buhari joins the family in mourning Alhaji Daneji, who was a pioneer permanent secretary, Minister of Finance, Kano State. In a statement by the senior special assistant to the President, Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, said the President also sends condolence to the people and government of Borno State over the passing of the first civilian governor of the state, Alhaji Muhammad Goni, whose dedication and commitment to the development of the state remains a reference for many governments. Now let's take a look at Friday's weather prospect for Nigerian cities and other parts of the globe. We haven't challenged to bring you the weather report, and here is where we end the news on NTA International at this time. Thank you very much for being a part of it. My name is Justin Bemunyi.
This is NTA International.
COVID-19 transmission is mostly through droplets from sneezing and saliva. The most